Hello and welcome to World Talks, where every word matters. I'm your host, Sasha Farbach. Now, the Central Election Commission of Georgia, after a partial recount of the votes cast in Saturday's parliamentary elections, announced on Thursday that the voting results had not changed. Now, that means that the incumbent Georgian Dream Party remains the winner of the elections. Now, the result remains disputed, however, by the pro-European opposition in the country. Now, to discuss the latest developments, I'm joined by Lasha Bazhunaishvili, Associate Professor of the Batumi Shota Rustaveli State University. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Hello. I'm very grateful to invite me to in your TV show. So
it's good to have you. Many questions. Let's begin with what we have at the moment, this recount. Tell us, Lasha, what is the significance here? Is this now final? Is this now a signal that Georgian Dream is going to remain in power? What's next? I mean, the U.S. has disputed this. European Union partners have disputed this. The opposition in Georgia has disputed. What is the next step after this?
Yes, finally they counted, but we have to take in account that these results are not showing the real picture of elections, because actually elections were totally falsified. There was used several.
All right, so we are just in the middle of talking about the results in the Georgian elections. We're just speaking there to an expert from Georgia. As we know, we have the partial recount results now, and we're obviously trying to make sure we understand this. Now, this has been disputed. In fact, as well, just I believe it was yesterday when we heard also the European Union give its take on all this, a very harsh announcements that they would not be continuing the accession talks and negotiations with Georgia unless it reverted its course on this. So this is already another voice in all of this as the whole process, as this drama continues and has, if we look at other elections as well, right? We've had Moldova recently, Bulgaria, so all these different elections, but Georgia remains our main topic here, and we're just talking to an expert there. Now, I think also what's worth remembering here is that the president, the pro-European president of Georgia, has very much come out and disputed these results, which has been fascinating to observe. And this is maybe no surprise, as the president there. She has always been very much on the side of moving closer to Europe. But at the same time, with what we've seen there since last week, has been very much, and also with electoral observers, various tampering with election results, tampering of how these elections have actually taken place. So really much cast a lot of doubt in this part of the world, and has many Western partners worried indeed. So this is something, and in fact, we have a lot of content on this on our web page, tvpworld.com. So definitely something you can read about there. And I see that we have Lasha back. Thanks so much. So you were just saying about what we know from this recount. What are the conclusions to be drawn from it?
Yeah, recounts are actually false because all election process was false, and they used just traditional methods of falsification and also new technologies of falsification based on voting machine. So that's why all opposition parties and the majority of the population didn't recognize these elections because according to the exit polls, the winner had to be in opposition parties, but just we got another result, and people are just the opposition parties, and international reactions are the proper, because all these data, all these exit polls showed another results, and we got another result. So that's why for us now it's very important that this election to recognize as out of law, and our demand is to arrange elections and new elections actually. Yeah. What about the European and the American positions? We heard statements of the President of United States, Joe Biden. Also, we just saw the reaction from the European Union, and we are expecting very great support from outside in terms of legitimation of the election. That we know that on the one hand, there is the situation that election, just the fact that the election was held, but we were not discussing it was just normal or no. And there is another way, that justification of election and recognize international legitimation of this. It's just political process. So that's why we have now two ways, and we have to use all of these ways for pressing on our government. The one is its internal press, and for this we are waiting for opposition parties, and they announced that for Monday they will define clear plan for fighting against these results. And also the internal force is that mass demonstration to force our government to change their political decisions regarding to the election. And second one is the international pressing, using not only some statements but also using active some instruments against that. Against those politicians which organize these false elections in Georgia.
Well, it's a difficult situation, Lasha. At the same time, you mentioned there have already been, we can see that in the images there, street protests. There plan to be more demonstrations in the coming days as well. I mean, the outrage is there. I see that, and the world sees it. But at the same time, we've seen this before, right? We've seen this during that crucial time with the foreign agents law. We saw indignation there, and it still passed. It was still made into law. Now, what is different now, if anything? Is the situation different? Is there any way that Georgian Dream and the current government will just suddenly buckle under pressure, or is there anything really that can happen on the ground? You mentioned, pressure from Western or European allies, but will that really persuade the Electoral Commission and the ruling government to say, okay, we're going to have another vote? Or is this just how it is? I'm just trying to see what could happen for the government to change its mind, to not accept that it believes it won.
Yeah, it is very difficult to analyze the Bidzina Ivanishvili, who is an oligarch of this country, his next steps, because this person is not a politician. This person is a post-Soviet, like a crime businessman who gained his power in Georgia with the false some donations and like this. And we also cannot really make a very clear and precarious analysis about his puppet government. So that's why one of the greatest tools to make some influence over their decisions is internal and external pressures. So Bidzina Ivanishvili is one of the leading person who is and decisive game changer person. So my opinion is that international community, especially European Union and the United States, must press on this person, because he is a fortress of and a stronghold of this regime. If they can manage to change his mind or to influence over his politics, it might be that a political process in Georgia will turn to the direction of new elections. So that's why the main objective of the opposition parties and for international our partners must be to make influence over the Bidzina Ivanishvili. What about the protests? Yes, I can recall a 2-year experience of our protest. It was started 2 years ago. Then they firstly initiated a law about the foreign influence agents. So then it was they repeated last months, and they just done this. And beside the protest, mass protest, they just adopt this law, and it was very dark day of in modern Georgia's history, because we just make a step back in the democracy and in the EU integration. So mass protest is not a very for Bidzina Ivanishvili, mass protest and demonstration is not a very active tool and instrument to force him to make some changes in his politics. There must be some complex approaches from outside and from inside. So that's why now the most important that opposition parties to define a clear political agenda, not to enter in the parliament, not to help to the Georgian dream to legitimate parliament. Also, the president has a crucial position, because president has the authority to appoint the first parliamentary session in which the parliament must recognize his authority. So that's why we are expecting from inside and from outside.
I think that there are still, sorry to interrupt you, unfortunately there's still many things we need to analyze, but we don't have the time, unfortunately, on this. But look, it's an ongoing story. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That was Lasha Bazhunaishvili. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks. But as ever, stay tuned right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.